When I bought my cabin in the valley, I thought I was buying peace. The land stretched for miles with rolling hills, whispering pines, and a river that curled like a silver ribbon through the fields. It wasn't just a cabin, it was freedom. Or at least, that's what I thought before the HOA showed up. The first time I met her, I knew she was going to be trouble. Karen, mid-50s, bleach blonde bob cut, designer sunglasses even on cloudy days, and the unmistakable aura of someone who believed the world bent to her will. She didn't knock when she came to my porch that morning. She banged. Hard. "You can't just live here without HOA approval," she snapped the second I opened the door. I blinked at her. "Excuse me?" "This valley is under the Oak Ridge Homeowners Association," she announced, puffing out her chest like she was a sheriff in a Wild West movie. "That means you need to pay dues, follow community standards, and submit any improvements to the Architectural Committee, which I chair." I almost laughed, thinking it was a prank. "Lady, this is my land. I don't live in your subdivision. My cabin's been here for decades, way before any HOA existed." Karen's lips curled into a smirk. "Everything in this valley falls under HOA jurisdiction. You'll learn that fast, or you'll regret it." Then she strutted off like she'd already won. For the first couple of weeks, I ignored her. HOA letters started showing up in my mailbox. Fines for grass too long, notices about unapproved fencing, even threats about illegal structures. The cabin. The cabin my grandfather built with his own hands. I called the county, office to be sure. They laughed. "Son, that HOA doesn't have jurisdiction over your property. You own everything from the ridgeline down to the river. They've got no legal standing." Good enough for me. I tossed the letters in the trash, but Karen wasn't the type to give up. She started patrolling the dirt road near my cabin in her spotless white SUV, taking pictures of my land. Sometimes I'd catch her standing near the edge of the property line, hands on hips, glaring like she could burn me alive with her eyes. One afternoon, I found her inside my gate, pointing her phone. At my porch, I marched over. "Step off my property." She gave me that plastic smile. "I'm just documenting violations." "Violations of what?" I shot back. "You don't control this valley." Her smile dropped. "Not yet." Something about the way she said it sent a chill through me. The real battle began 2 weeks. Later, when I came back from a supply run in town and found a bright orange notice taped to my cabin door. "Immediate compliance required. Remove unapproved structure or face legal action. Signed, Oak Ridge HOA." I tore it down and stormed to Karen's McMansion on the ridge. She was out front, watering her flowers like she owned the world. "You think this is a game?" I shouted, holding the notice in the air. Her smile widened. "This is me being generous. You can avoid a lawsuit by attending our next HOA meeting and paying your back dues. Only $12,000. A bargain, really." I laughed, shaking my head. "You've officially lost your mind. This is my valley, my land. I don't owe you a cent." She leaned closer, her voice dropping to a whisper. "Then I'll make you wish you had played along." At the time, I thought it was just an empty threat. I was wrong. The following week, I woke up to the sound of engines. A construction crew was at the edge of my land, measuring, marking, and digging. Karen stood with a clipboard, barking orders. I rushed down. "What do you think you're doing?" She looked smug. "New road expansion. HOA approved. This will run right through your cabin. Eminent domain, honey. Nothing you can do." That's when I pulled out my trump card. See, what Karen didn't know, what no one in the HOA knew, was that I wasn't just the owner of the cabin. My family had quietly acquired deeds to the entire valley over generations. The land, the water rights, even the mineral rights under their homes, it all belonged to me. I hadn't wanted to use that leverage. I figured, why stir up trouble? But standing there, watching Karen smirk as her crew prepared to bulldoze my grandfather's porch, I knew I had no choice. "Stop," I said, my voice cutting through the rumble of machinery. "This road doesn't go anywhere without my signature, and I never signed a damn thing." Karen blinked, momentarily thrown. "What are you talking about?" I reached into my pack and pulled out the deed. One single leather-bound folder that spelled it all out. 2,000 acres of valley land, all in my name. Stamped and sealed by the county. Karen's smirk faltered. The construction crew glanced nervously between us. This isn't HOA land, I said firmly. This isn't community property. This is my valley, every inch of it, which means you're trespassing. Karen's face went pale. No, that can't be. Oh, it can, I said, stepping closer. And if you don't back off, I'll make sure every lawyer in the county knows the HOA is trying to illegally seize private land. How do you think your precious board will like paying damages? For once, Karen didn't have a comeback. She just stood there, jaw tight, eyes blazing with hate. I thought maybe, just maybe, that would be the end of it. That she'd back down. Once the truth was out, but Karen wasn't wired that way. If anything, my revelation only made her more dangerous, because a week later she called the cops. It was a Saturday morning when I first heard the sirens. They echoed through the valley, bouncing off the trees and cliffs, growing louder until the gravel road shook under the weight of 2 sheriff's cruisers. I stepped out onto my porch, coffee in hand, squinting at the flashing lights. And then I saw her. Karen, standing at the end of my driveway, waving frantically like she had just saved civilization from an alien attack. She was in full performance mode, tears streaming, phone still, clutched in her hand, pointing directly at me like I was the villain in her movie. "That's him," she shouted as the deputies stepped out. "Arrest him before someone gets hurt." One of the deputies, a tall guy with a clipboard tucked under his arm, raised his hand. "Sir, we need you to step off the porch. Hands visible, please." I complied, calm as could be, though inside I was already furious. "What's going on?" Karen stormed forward before they could answer. "This man has been harassing the HOA. He's threatening the community. He's got illegal weapons in that cabin, dangerous traps all over his land. He told me if we didn't pay him rent, he'd flood the whole valley." The deputies exchanged quick glances. One of them looked at me, then back at her. "Ma'am, please step aside while we handle this." She wasn't having it. "Don't you get it? He's a menace. He's hiding something. I know it." The deputy sighed and turned to me. "Sir, do you consent to us checking the property?" "Just to clear this up." I stared at Karen, who was smirking behind them like she'd already won, then nodded. "Go right ahead. I've got nothing to hide." For the next hour, the deputies searched my cabin, my storage shed, even under my porch. And what did they find? A registered hunting rifle locked in a safe, tools, food stores, and the usual camping gear. Nothing illegal. Nothing even questionable. Finally, the tall deputy came back out, flipping through the paperwork. "Everything checks out. Clean as a whistle." Karen's face twisted with rage. "No, you missed it. He's hiding them somewhere. He threatened me. I swear he threatened me." The deputy's patience snapped. "Ma'am, we found nothing to support your claims. This man is within his rights, and unless you have evidence. Otherwise, you're wasting county resources." She gasped like he'd just insulted royalty. "Wasting resources? I called 911 because this man is dangerous. He doesn't even belong here. This valley is HOA land." That was my cue. I walked inside, grabbed the leather-bound folder, and returned to the porch. Slowly, deliberately, I handed it to the deputy. "Actually," I said, eyes locked on Karen, "I belong here more than anyone. That," I pointed to the folder, "is the deed to this valley. 2,000 acres. Every home, every tree, every drop of water, it's all mine." The deputy flipped through the pages, eyebrows rising. "Stamped and sealed, county verified." He whistled low. "This is legit." He turned to Karen. "Ma'am, you said this land was HOA jurisdiction?" Karen's face was ghost white. It should be," she stammered. The deputy handed her the folder. "Take a look yourself. This deed predates your subdivision. His family's had this land for generations. Your HOA has no jurisdiction here." Karen flipped through the papers with trembling hands. Her lip curled, but her eyes betrayed her shock. She couldn't argue. Not with this. The deputy continued. "Ma'am, this is the second time you've called us out here with false claims. If it happens again, You'll be facing charges for filing false reports. Do you understand? Karen opened her mouth to protest, but no sound came out. She just stood there, gripping her clipboard so hard her knuckles turned white. The deputies packed up, gave me a nod, and rolled down the gravel road. Their sirens were silent now. That left me and Karen standing in the heat of the afternoon. "You think this is over?" she hissed, her voice shaking with fury. "You embarrassed me. In front of the law. You'll regret that," I smirked. "The only thing I regret is not watching your face sooner when you realize you don't own this valley." Her SUV peeled out so fast it sprayed gravel in every direction. I thought maybe that would be the end of it. Maybe humiliation would finally shut her down, but I underestimated Karen, because the very next week she doubled down, not with letters, not with construction crews. This time she brought the entire HOA. The following Saturday, I was splitting logs behind the cabin when I heard a convoy of vehicles crawling down the valley road. SUV after SUV, all shiny and spotless, pulled up in a line like some kind of suburban parade. At least a dozen people stepped out, men in polos, women in designer sandals, clipboards in hand, and of course leading the charge was Karen. She strutted right up to the porch like she owned the place. "We're here for an official HOA inspection," she announced, her voice loud enough to echo off the hills. I leaned on my axe and laughed. "You people really don't quit, do you?" A balding man in khakis stepped forward, puffing out his chest. "Sir, as members of the Oak Ridge Homeowners Association, we have the right to levy fines for violations against community standards. Your cabin is in violation of multiple codes." I raised an eyebrow. "Codes? For what?" Karen smirked. "Non-approved structure, unauthorized fencing, environmental hazards. Oh, and failure to pay HOA dues. With penalties and fees, your balance comes to, let's see." She flipped through her clipboard dramatically. $47,000. The group behind her murmured like she'd just announced a royal decree. I shook my head slowly. "You're trying to fine me. Nearly 50 grand? For living on my own land?" she sneered. "Not your land. HOA land. And if you refuse to comply, we'll file liens and then foreclosure. You'll be gone before the summer's over." I could see it in her eyes. She thought she had me cornered. She thought she could bury me under fake fines and paperwork until I had no choice but to give up, so I smiled. "All right then, let's make this official." I walked inside, grabbed the same leather-bound folder, and came back out. "Everyone gather around," I said. "Since Karen here hasn't bothered to share the truth, let me educate the rest of you." I laid the deed on the porch railing and opened it wide, showing them every page. "This cabin, this valley, every acre you're standing on, it's mine. My family's name is on every deed, every mineral right, every water right. This land predates your HOA by more than 70 years. The murmurs grew louder. A couple of the men leaned in to read the documents themselves. I watched their expressions shift from confusion to shock. Karen's face flushed red. "Don't listen to him. He forged those papers. He's trying to trick you." But one of the board members, a tall woman with glasses, cut her off. "These are county seals. This door isn't forged," Karen snapped at her. "Whose side are you on?" The woman crossed her arms. "The side of the law, Karen." I couldn't help but grin. "You see, while you've been busy dreaming up fake fines, I've been patient. I've let you dig this hole deeper and deeper. But now everyone knows the truth. Your HOA has no authority here, not 1 inch of it." Karen's bravado cracked. She turned to her board, desperate. "He's lying. Don't you get it? If we let him stay, he'll ruin everything. Property values will drop. The valley will be worthless." A man near the back spoke up. "Or maybe the only thing ruining property values is you, Karen." The group erupted in murmurs again, some nodding, others shaking their heads. The board was splintering right in front of her. I decided to twist the knife. "And here's the kicker. Your homes, your driveways, even the water pipes you rely on, all of that sits on my land, which means if I wanted, I could charge you rent." The murmurs turned into full-on arguments. Some board members demanded to see more documentation, while others muttered angrily at Karen for dragging them into this mess. Karen spun back to me, her face a mask of rage. "You'll regret this," she hissed. "You think you've won, but you haven't. You'll see what happens when you humiliate me in front of my board." She stormed back to her SUV, slamming, the door so hard it echoed. The others followed reluctantly, some throwing her dirty looks. Within minutes, the convoy disappeared up the road, dust swirling in their wake. I stood there, the valley quiet again except for the wind in the trees. I'd won another round. But I knew Karen. She wouldn't stop. She couldn't. And when someone, like Karen, is cornered, they get desperate. Sure enough, just a week later, I saw flashing lights in the valley again. Only this time, it wasn't just deputies. It was county officials. Karen had gone nuclear. I knew the second I saw the county trucks roll in that Karen had pulled every string she could find. 2 cruisers, a county assessor's vehicle, and even a code enforcement van, all crawling down my road like they were headed into a standoff. And of course, Karen's white SUV was right behind them, parked front and center as if she were the commander of this little army. She stepped out, chin high, sunglasses glinting, and announced loudly enough for the whole valley to hear, "Today, we're ending this nonsense. By the authority of Oak Ridge HOA and county enforcement, your illegal occupation of this property is finished." I leaned on my porch rail and took a sip of coffee. "Illegal occupation? Lady, you're reaching." One of the county officials, a man in a beige jacket, came forward. He looked uneasy. "We received multiple complaints, sir. Claims of unauthorized structures, unsafe land use, and disputes over ownership. We're here to review." Karen butted in before I could answer. "Review? No, you're here to evict him. This squatter has been threatening us for months. He doesn't belong here." The official held up a hand. "Ma'am, let us handle this." He turned back to me. "Do you have proof of ownership?" I smiled. "As a matter of fact, I do." Once again, I brought out the leather-bound deed, setting it on the hood of the county truck for all to see. The official opened it, flipping carefully through each page, his eyes widening. He looked at the seals, the dates, the signatures. Then, he glanced at Karen. "This is ironclad. These deeds predate the subdivision by decades. Legally, the valley belongs to him." Karen's face twisted in panic. "No, you're wrong. He forged those. He bribed somebody at the courthouse." The official shook his head. "Ma'am, I personally recognize these county stamps. This is legitimate." The deputies stepped closer now, their patience clearly running thin. One of them said, "This is the 3rd time we've been dragged out here over false claims. Unless you've got actual evidence, this stops today." Karen's voice went shrill. "You don't understand. If he stays, the HOA loses control. Property values will plummet. He's destroying everything we built." I finally stepped off the porch, walking slowly until I stood just a few feet from her. "Karen, listen to yourself. You've called the cops, dragged in construction crews, fined me fake dues, humiliated yourself in front of your board, and now you're wasting county resources. All because you can't stand the fact that you don't own me, or this land." Her hands shook, clutching her clipboard like it was a weapon. "You can't do this to me. I am this community." I leaned in just enough for only her to hear. "No, Karen. You were, but not anymore." The official closed the deed folder with finality and turned to the deputies. "As far as the county is concerned, there is no violation here. This man is the rightful owner of the valley. Any further harassment will need to be dealt with legally." The deputy nodded. "And if it's false again, charges will be filed." Karen's eyes darted wildly between them, then back to me. She looked, smaller somehow, deflated. For the first time, the fight drained out of her. The officials and deputies packed up, climbing back into their vehicles. Within minutes, the convoy was gone, their dust settling into the summer air. That left just me and Karen. She stood frozen, in the middle of the dirt road, staring at the ground like she couldn't believe what just happened. Then, finally, she whispered, "You've ruined me." I shook my head. "No, Karen. You ruined yourself. You could have just lived your life, tended your garden, waved politely when you passed by, but you couldn't resist the power trip, and now everyone sees the truth." Her SUV door slammed shut a final time, and she sped away. I didn't see her for weeks after that. Rumors spread that the HOA board forced her to step down, sick of the lawsuits and bad press. Some neighbors even came by to apologize, admitting they'd only gone along with her because they were scared of her wrath. As for me, I finally got the peace I'd bought this land for in the first place. Sometimes, late in the evening, I stand on the ridge and look out over the valley, my valley. The river glistens, the cabins dot the tree line, and the wind carries nothing but the sound of leaves and distant laughter. Karen had no idea what she was up against when she picked this fight. She thought I was just some loner in a cabin. She thought the HOA ruled the valley. But in the end, the truth crushed her. Because while she was busy calling the cops on my cabin, she never realized I owned the entire valley.